intervals. And if you look out there, folks, you can see the parade ground to which I was referring. Okay. And that is where the first flight. Now, as I said, a company from the RAAF, a company that actually started off as a hobby between two fellas, and they started building ultralight motors and what have you, and they were so good at it, and their success spread far and wide. And one day they got a call from a bloke at the station and said, I want 10 motors. Therefore this company started up and still exists today, still building. One of whom was a fellow named Williams, after whom this base is named, and he is widely considered, Williams, as the father of the Air Force. Roughly the size of 9 four-door engines. If one was to slip that under the bonnet, one would be very poor in a very short space of time, because if today you had one of these bonnets and fired her up, you've just lost $400. That's what it costs to turn these things over. Very, very expensive, and in fact, no one in the world...
As these early airwomen broke the barrier of social opposition during World War II.
Was one of the sea fury, which was 18
As a civilian, you went about your daily work, all the time consciously or unconsciously, obeying certain rules and regulations, laid down by the civil authorities and considered by them to be necessary for community life. You crossed the intersection when the traffic light was green.
Pretty good, isn't it, Ken?
And while we're here, this photo here on the wall, that is Model Aircraft Corporation boomerang. There is a photo of the boomerang in full. We do have one here in the museum. And the boomerang is the only aircraft, and I say the... Ladies and gentlemen, the first section up here on the upper level, of course, is World War I. And what was the saying? The war to end all wars? Yeah. Unfortunately, no. And I might add, and I'll mention it a little bit later on, we've all heard of the famous German aviator, the Red Baron, Baron Manfred von Richthofen. Is the DFC, or the Distinguished Flying Cross. And it is probably the most awarded gallantry medal for aviators. And in actual fact, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of the Victoria Cross, there have only been 4 recipients of the VC in the Australian Flying Corps / RAAF. The first one was during World War I to a gentleman named McNamara, and because he was in the Australian Flying Corps, he was part of the Army. During World War II, there were 3 Victoria Crosses awarded to Edwards and Middleton, who were flying in Europe when they got their awards. The only gentleman ever to be a VC whilst flying in the Pacific region was Bill Newton. And as we go through, I'll speak more about his no heating in these things. Again, a lot of the missions had to be aborted because of the hypothermia issue. And the Anti-Cancer Council wasn't around in those days, so he was permitted to have a cigarette in his hand. It was considered that if you lasted 9 missions. Okay. as I was mentioning, ladies and gentlemen, the Kitty Hawks were flown by 75 Squadron. They were flown out of Port Moresby, and Les Jackson, the commanding officer of that squadron, in actual fact, has Port Moresby International Airport named after him today. Okay? They held out for 44 days against the superior odds of the Japanese, and if they hadn't held out, well, what's the next step up at Port Moresby? Straight down the east coast of Australia. And it never happened because of these guys. And of course, I lost a lot of uncles on the Burma Road. And it is a forgotten war because all of the attention was paid to the Pacific in general, not to Burma. But that's the forgotten war. It was in Burma, the 1941-45 effort to reclaim Burma. And it could fly further. And a propeller aircraft just didn't stand a chance against the jet engine. Okay. If you look at that damaged instrument you can see there is a pitot tube. Anyone tell me what a pitot tube does in an aircraft? Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And if you've got no pitot tube, you can't fly. It measures temperature, wind velocity, airspeed, altitude, everything is measured through your pitot tube. And it's normally, all aircraft is actually running at the nose of the aircraft. All aircraft in rubber. If you ever watch the show called Air Crash Investigations on TV, it's been on numerous times. There was an instance whereby the aircraft crashed because of it was a 737 was parked in the ground. It was on the ground for about 4 weeks. It was on the ground for 4 weeks because the company operated ran out of money.
You know what happened to the Air France one that put
the Air France, and you talk about the A330, yeah, amongst other things. Again, interestingly enough, if we talk about that Air France incident, that was the one where the aircraft took off from Brazil, was heading to Paris. It actually crashed in the Atlantic, and it took them 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, all of the aircraft you can see in this particular hangar have been used by the Air Force for training pilots during the course of our history. The one on the pedestal here, I'll start with that. It is presumed that they are going to pass all their military flying tests. And of course, we've now gone from the propeller to the jet aircraft. And as I said, the difference, of course, the method of propulsion is unique. And even now, ladies and gentlemen, the jet engine, as we know it, is virtually eternity. There's systems that do it. Okay, it's manoeuvrability that does it. So really speed is not of the essence. Now they're going to a thing called converters. The engine spins up, it sucks air in through the front, through the air intakes. It mixes with the fuel, it combusts it, and it fires down the back of the aircraft as thrust. And with the vampire, you can see the exhaust between the twin tails. It is less than a metre above the ground. If that aircraft was on bitumen, the pulse will move the aircraft within 30 seconds of firing up. Otherwise, it starts to come
I haven't seen a video, someone sent an email and they built one, they built one.
It's very, very hot. One of those things. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a private pilot, you need a special license for flying. I knew I'd be your face. I was in low control. Peter Weaver,
Yep.
the ramp manager.
Yes.
I was looking back at those days.
Good old days.
Mate, you wouldn't recognise the place now. Oh, stay away from it.
Oh, last 15 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you join the military, whether you are an enlisted man or an officer in the making, there is one thing you will learn to do and plane on their own. They would always fly in the back seat for trim purposes, for weight and balance purposes. Also, if you see that funny little contraption between the top wings there, that's a fuel tank. It is gravity fed. The fuel line runs down there to the engine. So if you're flying and the aircraft's upside down inverted, this piece here, the Model Aircraft short one, was actually used for training trials first were there 99 years ago, 1916. We actually had 5 of them. At the end of their usefulness to the Air Force, they were sold to a gentleman named Graham Carey, and he flew them out of a place called Fisherman's Bend, just under where the Westgate Bridge is today. Fisherman's Bend, or the aerodrome that was there, is now occupied by Boeing Aircraft Corporation. On the landing gear, of course, is because in those days they had no runways. You landed and took off from the grass. And taking off from the grass, they used to share the grass paddock with farm animals who had a habit of digging holes in the ground. And of course, for the same reason that modern downhill skiers or water skiers were up to, that little black container was the fuel tank. One thing that was invented during World War I, and it happened by accident, was the art of dogfighting. Now, do you all know what I mean by dogfighting? Two pilots
Trying to kill each other.
trying to kill each other. Of course, when you had an aeroplane like that, and of course, as you know, R.J. Mitchell was the man who designed and built the Spitfire and its elliptical wing. During his career, R.J. Mitchell actually designed no less than 24 aircraft, most of them before World War II. But this particular aircraft, folks, in the English Channel during the war, this aircraft type was actually responsible for saving the lives of, they reckon, the Tan, the Battle of Long Tan. That is the helicopter. You won't find any of the bullet holes, they've been patched up. You'll also notice, ladies and gentlemen, that it says RAAF. In today's situation, that would show Army, because the Army flies helicopters, not the Air Force. But in the late 1960s, it was flown by the Air Force. And in actual fact, one of my fellow volunteers here at the museum actually flew, shot into the aircraft. Now, the Australian Air Force never actually flew gunships. We only flew distributions and troop deployment flights. Never actually flown gunships. I actually had a very big set game control there. On the outside, you heard lots of dogs and machine guns. But and also, ladies and gentlemen, one day I was doing something and I was talking about the situation along there, and there was amazing fact there is no birds. can see over there is the SE-58. SE standing for Scout Medal, and it's got a silver one. If we were talking, remember on the tour I was talking about the aircraft, on Rick Doffin. This is the aircraft which the Allies or the Brits actually designed to combat the aircraft. Unfortunately, it didn't fall over as well in the original configuration they built it. There was a pilot by the name of Albert Hall. Albert Hall was the number one flying match for the Brits. Albert Hall he actually died in 2014.
When you look at that, you wonder how they change an engine in 25 minutes.
Yeah, good, yeah.
An engine change in 25 minutes, they could do.
Oh, geez. Had a reputation of being a flying brick, that Uncle I.
What the pilot did do was he used to tow targets, and you can see a target hanging from the roof there. He towed it a couple hundred metres behind the aircraft, and the fighter pilots would come in, and for practice they would try and shoot at that black dot in the middle of the panel. And the pilot of the vampire would sit there saying,
in the 50s, and the RAAF took delivery of the Winchell between about 1955 and 1958. This particular aircraft was completed in September of 1956. At the time, the Winchell replaced initially the Tiger Moths, which were used in basic flying training. How many of you heard of the Tiger Moth? Quite a few.
Yep.
You guys would have all heard of the Tiger Moth, I'm sure, but you've probably got your hands full eating at the moment. I understand. So we've got Tiger Moths on display inside the museum as well. So initially replaced the Tiger Moth and then the Wirraway, which was also being used for training at that time. Initially the aircraft was employed to fly at the school in Uranquinty, a little township in New South Wales, and then shortly afterwards the basic flying training moved to number 1 flying training school here.
Warren comes back, he'll be parking the aircraft back on this spot and he'll be happy to answer questions, but in the meantime Barry and I will do our best to answer any questions you have. And think about this, I'll start off asking you a question. When was the first flight that took place here at Port Cook? Does anybody know? Over there. 1914. Very good. The exact day?
Monday.
No, you did well. 1st of March 1914. And the aircraft was a Bristol box kite and it was flown by Lieutenant Eric Harrison. But it wasn't the Air Force, we didn't have an Air Force, it was the Australian Army. The pilots were Army officers wearing their brown uniforms, Army uniforms, using their Army ranks. It wasn't until 1921 that the Australian Flying Corps, as it was called then, was disbanded, and the Australian Air Force was formed. And many of the people in the Flying Corps transferred over to the Australian Air Force. And the following year, King George V gave his royal assent, and so Royal went in front of the Australian Air Force, and it became the Royal Australian Air Force, and it's still called that today. Now, the 1st of March 1914, you think about it, last year was the 100th anniversary of that flight, the first military flight in Australia. And some of our engineers here at the museum made a replica Bristol box kite in the hangar over there. And on the very day, the 1st of March 2014, at the exact time as the original flight was something like 5 minutes to 8 or something. 7:40, Barry's good on figures, 7:40 in the morning, the aircraft took off and did a circuit of the field here. Yes, Captain Thomas White decided he'd land the aircraft close to the hangar so that the ground crew didn't have so far to recover it and take it back to the hangar, but he misjudged things and flew into the roof of the hangar, just above the brown doors on the hip part that we can see. And the dent is still there today because most of those buildings are heritage listed and we can't touch them, and we don't want to. They fixed up the aeroplane and they fixed up Thomas White and they both flew again. Now Warren's just going to do an engine run over there to check that the engine's developing full power, the oil pressure, oil temperature within the normal range. He's going to take off into the south. The south is in that direction. Can anybody tell me why he would take off into the south?
That's where the wind's coming from.
That's the way to do it. That's the direction of the south.
cubic inches, which is 16.2 litres, and that's about 5 times the size of the average 6-cylinder family car. Lifts off the ground at about 65 knots, which is 130 kilometres per hour. But he will line up and probably take off on the runway, which has the least resistance, and more accurately into the wind. You'll notice how quickly the tail comes up off the ground, and he'll be well and truly in the air when he gets immediately opposite us here.
It takes the load off the engine, so the engine tends to go faster, and it just increases speed slowly, and it usually happens when it's about a Bemis. But the Harvard aircraft makes a lot more noise than that. It's a beauty. Now he's looking forward again, just easing back on the stick, reducing the descent rate, keeping the wings level, touching down now on the grass.
Typical Kent landing. Beautiful landing.
Keeping it straight with rudder until he gets down to taxi speed.
There.
Now this is a good...
So the next time you fly with Tiger Air, expect a landing like that if Warren's flying.
On the grass.
Now you notice with the tail wheel, as this aircraft is, when from the pilot's position now, he probably can't see us or hardly, because the nose is sticking up in front of him. So to allow him to taxi without hitting anything, he looks out the side. He'll normally open the canopy, and you zigzag. When he zigs, he looks out one side. When he zags, he looks out the other side because of the engine sticking up. On a nose wheel aircraft such as the Cessna over there, the forward visibility on the ground is quite good, and you don't need to do that. Oh yes. You'll probably increase the engine power or RPM on shutdown, because the angle of the propeller blades are controlled by the engine oil pressure, and he wants engine oil pressure to park the blades in the course position, because of the moist cold air around here. It corrodes some of the metal parts of the propeller. You hear that whooshing sound was the blade angle coasting off. Now I'll just bring the microphone around, and if you have any questions, please put your hand up, and you can ask your question through the PA so everybody can hear it, and the answer will make more sense if everybody knows what the question is.
What if you bust them when you're in the plane?
Yeah.
You can go over into the workshop area and have a look and see what they're restoring. Oh, I'd love to do that. Yeah. Adrian, you can go over there. Yeah.
Just go over.
Just put the crap back in the car.
Yeah.
5 6s, please come over.
Looks like our shed in miniature. Or our shed's in miniature.
Mine too.
doesn't look like much, but it's all in its own.
It's cruising.
It'll start to look another 2 or 3 years, it'll more impressive.
Oh, yeah.
He just like
This ride's the big flashing. Show off all his money.
He got an aircraft.
I've got
He
it
got
on.
heaps of money.
I've got it on tape too, Ron.
Oh, I did.
Or video.
And of course, they were a great benefit during the war. I tell you, you can understand that.
Hold the thing steady, jeez.
Huge range. As a matter of fact, that was my fellow Tom, his uncle actually flew in the World War II.
Small stream.
Okay, folks. Now we come to the big stuff. Of course, looking in front of us here is the very, very famous Canberra bomber. Okay, did fly in Vietnam, and as a matter of fact, why we refer to it as the Canberra bomber, the Americans who flew too, ladies and gentlemen, they actually doubled the wing size on this one. And they actually had it up to well over 60,000 feet, and they used it as a sniper bomber. That's how good the airframe was for the Canberra bomber. The interesting part about this is that up until 2009, the Air Force still had 2 MIAs from Vietnam. MIA meaning missing in action. And a couple of farmers or peasants were digging in the soil, and they went front and clearing away the debris and what have you. They found the remains of the aeroplane, which turned out to be a Canberra bomber. Inside that Canberra bomber were the remains of our last 2 action. We did have a display here quite some time. It was called Operation Magpie's Return, and had artefacts from those 2 missing pilots. After consultation with the families permission, we had this exhibition. It is now in state. I think it might be up in water. I'm not too sure about that, but anyway, there was this. Now, the thing is this, we also, and the Americans